Facebook Live pop up. Hold on just one second. I'm going to grab my book that I use to prop my computer up. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about a couple things. One is around, I've just had my attention a lot on a couple of things that I teach. And one is a sacred sovereignty weekend for women. And another is the No Man Diet, which is, oh, hi, Allison. There was an early registration for the No Man Diet, and there's 10 women already in the program, and it'll reopen again soon. I can't remember the exact date. Anyway, registration will reopen again, and then the program officially begins January 13th. And so I've really had my mind and my heart and my being attention on what is the purpose of this? What do these women need? What am I holding for them? What do am I energetically offering? And I just had our bonus call with the women who registered early, and this quote came up for me when I was planning and really had my attention on them. Was this quote from Rudy Francisco, which is, "Perhaps we should love ourselves so fiercely that when others see us, they know exactly how it should be done." And I believe that there is something very, very powerful. This is true for men and women. Again, I've had my attention on the women's aspect a lot lately. But it's really this sense there's so much of the time we're just waiting for someone to come and love us the way we want to be loved. Just waiting for that person. And when they love me, then ... right? Sort of then I'll feel good, or then I'll be happy, or then my life will be complete, or then I will have arrived. There's sort of, a lot of times we actually don't even get specific enough, then what? But it's just sort of the sense well, then it'll all be complete. We'll be but it's this waiting, someone to love me the way, and it's almost oftentimes we don't even know what is the way we want someone to love us. We just know that we'll know when someone does it, because then, all the craziness inside of ourselves will disappear, or we'll be happy, or everything will be easy, or somehow our life will be better. And that's how we'll know that we're being loved in the way that we've always wanted to be loved. And, there's a couple of things about that. One is it's really not fair to our partners and our potential partners to put that kind of weight on them. And most of us do this unconsciously. I'm not saying that most of us don't really think about it, but we're unconsciously sort of going well, when they love me the way I want to be loved, then I'll feel, ... I'll feel better. I'll feel happy. I'll feel complete. I'll feel full. I'll feel, free. And that's how I'll know that I'm being loved the right way. So the first part of that is just the weight of our own fulfillment and happiness being kind of okay, make it so. Please, make it, somebody else come in and make me feel that way. But the second piece is the weight of it really being around not even, most of the time, not even really distinguishing for ourselves, how do we want to be loved? And so other people are sort of left guessing. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall of our being and going how about this? How about this? And then the fucked up thing, the really fucked up part of this, is that we are judging whether we're being loved right by whether we feel better, which is a very bad metric to judge whether we're being loved. So the whole thing is this recipe for everybody to be really, really unhappy. Now, I don't think that one necessarily needs to go on a no man diet to sort this out, although it can be very, very beneficial. No man, no woman, no, partner diet. But I think I've had my mind on this as I move into holding these women through their no man diet is that there is something about clearing away the space, like clearing out the space in that way that allows us to see more clearly like the ways that this is all going on. If you're in a relationship, if you're dating, you can totally still, first would be to sort of notice any way that you're consciously or unconsciously expecting your partner or your potential partner to fix you with their love. Like, when they love me right, then I will be fixed, whatever that means for you, right? Like, then I will feel happy, then I will feel complete, then I will feel free, then I will feel turned on, then I will feel, I don't know what. It's for you, but for you to notice like, oh, some part of me imagines that when this person, like my actual partner or my fantasy potential partner, when they love me right, I'll feel better. I will be fixed. That's like the first piece of it. And then is to notice like the ways that you're judging their, first of all, that's like the weight, right? Like you're giving the weight of your feeling good or free or alive or happy to that person. And then you're judging the way that they're loving you, or you're probably thinking they're not loving you, based on whether it's making you feel that way or not, rather than like, gosh, are they loving me? And just as a question, like, are they, my partner, it took me a while to sort of sort this out. I mean, this goes with love languages or blah, 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 like all these different things. You can look at it through the Enneagram and whatever, but there's like just the broadest context, which is starting to see like, in what ways are they already loving me? And they may or may not be the ways that I want to be loved. That's a whole other step. But first is just to see like, how are they loving me already? So my partner used to come in and, there's like this, that, and the other, and kind of futzing around this, that, and the other. But a lot of times we would end up like, at some point we would sit down and he would start telling me like about some interesting thing happening in the world that often actually didn't even seem that interesting to me. But he'd be like, oh, they discovered, this, that, or the other, and he'd start telling me about some news article he read or some, science article. And I was always like, why are we doing this? Like this, I don't understand. And at some point I realized that's one of the ways that he loves and experiences love, is through like sharing interesting things. It's just the way his being is made. And it's not really the way that my being is made, although a little bit. Like I like to geek out on certain things. And if I get in like a really interesting conversation, like I feel like, oh yeah, we're like connected and, loving each other, or somebody's interested in what I'm interested in. But as soon as I recognized that that was him loving me, I was actually able to receive it as love, even though it's not like one of my things. So, but it doesn't necessarily make me feel better. It makes me feel a little better when I go like, oh, he's loving me. And then I'm like, oh, he's loving me. And then I feel happy. But the thing itself doesn't like do the thing that I unconsciously think when I'm being loved the right way, I will be fixed and free and happy and, all my problems will go away. And then there's that second step, which is to go, I don't even know if it's the second or third step, but there's this other piece, which is about like, how do I most want to be loved? But less like a checklist, like you should do this, and then you should do this, and then you should do this. And if you do it exactly like this, then I will feel better. Mostly that's not really true. Our feelings are much more whimsical and irrational than that. So even if somebody followed the checklist and did all the things, you'd probably still feel all the ways you already feel regardless. However, it's still valuable to know, like, gosh, I just want to be told I'm pretty on a regular basis. And I feel really loved when someone will do that. And it's okay to ask for those things, right? People don't magically know. Like my partner was doing his best to love me by sharing like interesting data. And I was doing my best to love him by telling him that I think he's beautiful. And he was like, why are you doing this? And I was like, why are you doing this? And then we're able to go like, oh, this is how you love. And this is how you love. And this is how you want to be loved. And then this brings it back all the way to the quote, perhaps we should love ourselves so fiercely that when others see us, they know exactly how it should be done. So I believe that it's far more powerful to embody the love for ourselves that we want to receive than to tell somebody. We can also do that. And those are some really useful pieces of communication and, relational data sharing. And those are important for creating structures and frameworks for a long-term workable relationship. But all of that is like worth nothing if it's built on quicksand. And the true solidity to build something on is both our capacity and our willingness and our practice around loving ourselves in the ways we want to be loved. And some of that's very specific, you literally might touch yourself in certain ways, or you might, buy yourself the expensive like rose scented lotion instead of the cheap, something, and be like, oh, this is me loving myself the way that I wish someone else would love me. Like if they loved me, they would know that I want this rose scented lotion. Well, fuck all, like I already know that. So, I can ask for it for my birthday, but I can literally love myself that way. So that's very specific and kind of, quote unquote surface oriented, but also just throughout the day, am I talking to myself the way that I want somebody who loves me to talk to myself? Am I relating to myself? Like, if I make a mistake, am I then relating to myself the way that I want my perfect lover to relate to me when I make a mistake? Am I, am I enjoying the own experience of being alive the way that I would want my ideal partner to enjoy that I am alive? At its most basic, that's what it is. So it's at a very energetic, emotional level. And then that does play out in actual physical realms. I love, Allison, you saying this has changed your marriage completely. I'd love if you're willing to share a little bit more about any of the specifics that you've actually brought, because it is kind of the devil's in the details, but do I want my lover to be distracted by Netflix until they pass out at night? Or do I want my lover to, sort of shepherd me into a bath and then hand me a novel? So which one should I do for myself, right? Should I just, it doesn't mean you never binge watch Netflix, and you can love yourself that way as well. But really going gosh, if I was treating myself the way that my perfect partner, the way my ideal lover, the way, the best friend I always wanted, whatever, would treat me, am I treating myself like that? And for me, this is very much not about so that I don't need a partner, but because those two things go together perfectly. What if I could be in a relationship where both me and my partner treated me like a precious object? That would be amazing. It's not one or the other. Not if I treat myself the way I want to be treated, somehow no one else will do it. Although, as that comes out of my mouth, I realize that is what a lot of us think. If I do this for myself, no one will do it for me. But really, all we do is show people that we don't really need that thing, or that we're, there is a thing about becoming so self-sufficient that everyone's like, why would I go help her? She just seems like she can handle it on her own, or he, or, but this is different. This is different than that kind of self-sufficiency or, totally contained unto oneself. Sort of, this is just no, I want to love myself in this way. Honestly, it's how would I want my perfect partner to be with me while I cried in grief? Would I want them to say, oh, it's okay, honey, and I love you, and hold you, or pat me on the back, or snuggle me in the blanket, or, would I want them to be come on, get over it, you got shit to do. I'm not going to judge which one or the other, but it's just really thinking about like, no, how would I really want my partner to treat me when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm angry, when I want something, when I don't want something, when I'm hungry? Like, how would I want my partner to treat me when I'm hungry? And then how do we bring that kind of attention to ourselves? And to me, this is really, I mean, it's in its own self this way, but it leads to this piece where, and I hear this from both men and women, frankly. It totally crosses like gender, sex lines, but almost like, okay, well, I'll do that when I'm in the relationship. You know, that's when I'll start like cooking for myself, or that's when I'll start, I don't know, like doing the relational work. Like I'll do the relational work when I'm in a relationship. And it's so important to be doing this work, whether we're, and then what happens? So this is kind of like I have a sneeze coming. Excuse me. Sorry. That it tends to bite people in the ass on both sides, because I hear people be like, okay, so I'll do all that relational work once I'm in a relationship and then I'll make it work. And it's kind of like an NBA player being like, I'm going to figure out how to play basketball when we're in a game. I don't need to dribble. I'm just going to like, I'm going to save all my energy for when, you know, it's game time. But then the other thing that I hear people say, oh, thanks, Amy, is they sort of get in relationship and they're like, oh, well, I don't need to now, you know, bring that attention to myself because now there's someone else who should do it. And again, we put all that pressure and like weight and responsibility on another person to be the one, like the only one to do that. And it often just kills relationships. So it's really important to really look at like, how am I learning? How am I practicing? How am I basically cultivating, I mean, I'm kind of jumping because I go, it's like cultivating the partnership I love. No, cultivating the relationship. It's really cultivating a life you love, whether you're in partnership or not. And then they live differently. It lives differently if you're not in a relationship or in a long-term relationship. And when you are, but it's so important to do both of the time, to both do the kind of solo practice of how do I want to be loved and how can I treat myself that way? And, you know, how do I want to feel? And how do I help myself already feel that way so that I'm not kind of like, come on, like, you know, do me so that I feel better. But like, how do I already cultivate my own joy? How do I already cultivate my own turn on? How do I already cultivate my own delight in life? How do I already cultivate my own capacity for feeling and expressing and not wait, come on, like, you know, you do the thing so that I can then express my feelings. Like, how do I already cultivate that for myself so someone else can even see, oh, like if I want to be in relationship with this person, then I should also cultivate the capacity to be with their feelings, because look, they, you know, that's the kind of being they are. That's how they're loved. And then once I get into relationship, oh, that's what I was talking about. It's like you're in a relationship, but already like, hey, and then I show up. Doesn't mean you're never sad. Doesn't mean you're never angry. You know, doesn't mean you're never disappointed. But it's like at its kind of base level, right? Like at the foundational level. All the rest of that is, I mean, then you get to build like the beautiful things on top, but the ground of it is this solidity of like, I know how to be this human. I don't need somebody to, you know, treat me a certain way, do something to me. I don't need to sort of like be done in order to be the human that I want to be. I know how to be that human already. And then I bring that human into relationship. And then there's sort of this, like, then you're not just sitting around like, I hope my life will start when I, when like that special someone who just knows how to love me so that I'm not, I never feel like this again. And then my life will start. It's like, I'm already living the life of my dreams. And the person who wants to live the life of their dreams with me living the life of my dreams, like, they're going to show up. They're going to show up. And then not to kind of get lazy, like, okay, great, now you're here to live, the life of my dreams. But to keep like that, it's really, it's so essential to practice when we're in relationship and when we're out of relationship, and not just to make it this relational, like how do we practice our relationship? How do we practice communication? How do we practice, sexual polarity and intimacy? But also, how do I continue my own solo practice as an act of self-love? And because then that ultimately that's who I bring to the relationship. So I want to pause, and any of those of you who've been on the call, if you have any shares, questions, comments, I'd love to hear them. I'm going to sign off in about 5 minutes. But I always really love like any specific shares you have about how this has been in your own life, or a question like, yeah, but what about this? Or how do I do this kind of, like, I had a woman, I remember talking to her, and I had her, she was writing this list of how she wanted to be treated by her partner. And I had her flip it to be like, how could she give this to herself? She was super excited. She's like, this is an awesome practice. I'm so excited. And then she made this sort of offhand joke, like, like, ha ha, no brainer. I can't really be waking myself up for, like early morning sex, ha ha ha. And I was like, why not? Like, there's so many things we assume we have to have a partner for. And some of it is this part where we might feel, genuinely disappointed, like, gosh, I really wish someone would like literally wake me up with like a dick in my mouth. And that's a hard one to do, like, alone, but this thing of like, oh, I want, someone to wake me up and make love to me. We can actually do that for ourselves. We can have that experience. I was like, if you really want, you could set an alarm, or first thing when you wake up, like, how would you start to touch yourself if you were your own perfect lover? And there's going to be times, and then also is like not assuming how it is. You go to bed and you're like, just assume like, gosh, I want to masturbate and get off. Like, maybe, but is that what you would want your perfect lover? Is that how you would want them to treat you right now? Do you want a quickie right now? Maybe. That's totally fine. So it's not about judgment. It's just actually paying attention and being like, no, that way of being with myself. Actually, do I just want to be snuggled to sleep tonight? And how would I offer that to myself? How do I really snuggle myself, cuddle myself? What are the words that I would say to myself if I were my own perfect lover? So really, there's so much of this that there are things that we assume like, well, I can't have that until I have a partner, and almost nothing. But again, it's not about like becoming so self-sufficient that we like, don't need a man, or I don't need a woman, or I don't need etc. It's just like, oh, I'm unconsciously putting the weight of having that experience on somebody else giving it to me, rather than like, oh, I know how to give this to myself, and I would fucking love to have that experience with another human. It's a different energy. Amy said, my new mantra, I know how to be this human. Yes. A lot of times what I say is be the person you want to be when you're in that perfect relationship, before you're in that perfect relationship. And this applies even if you're in a relationship that you're like, it's not perfect. I mean, spoiler alert, none of them are. Like, everybody's lame and stupid and, is going to do asshole-ish things sometimes. But it's like, who do I be? Who am I imagining that I can be once I have that, once I'm being perfectly met, once I have the relationship I want, once someone does me the way I want to be done? Who do I think I get to be? How do I be that person already? How can I be that person already? So that's the starting point. Thanks, Amy. So last minute or two here, just in case anybody does have any comments or questions. And then honestly, I'm going to go do a workout class that I totally don't want to do. But it's sort of different than, but this is me loving myself. Like it's like, I wish somebody else would, tell me to go to class, would like take me there, but I know who I am when I go sweat on a regular basis. And I am a happier person, and I am a nicer mother. And I sleep better, which also makes me a happier person and a nicer mother. And I enjoy the world more. So this is like, in a way, this is me loving myself. This isn't me going like, you should be skinnier. It's like, okay, Kendra, I'm like being the voice in my ear that I want, which is like, girl, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. Come on, you can do it. Hey, Emily, thank you. Amy, you said, I did this the other day when I was sick. I took care of myself the way I wanted someone else to do it. And it was hard not to take care of the house, but I let the kids and everything else go undone to truly take care of myself with love, not attitude of this is how it needs to be done. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Amy. It is really sweet. It's really sweet to hear that you were able to give that to yourself, especially, honestly, as a mother and in the midst of all the kids being like, it's okay. Some of you may have heard me say this because I've shared it on other lives, but I've written, it's not an emergency, like on the bathroom mirrors. And it just reminds me, right? Like if the house is all undone, or if the dishes aren't done, or like, the kids, my son is just totally, he loves to use those Waldorf play silks. And like, he has like 3 capes and one around his waist. I think he really likes the way they feel, and I'm considering buying him like silk pajamas because I think he just really likes the way it feels. But I came in and he should have been dressed, but instead he was covered in play silks. It's like, not an emergency. It's not an emergency. HJ said, working on this, and so hard to shift back to self-love when I lose the self-love. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, is because I do think that like self-love as an abstract concept kind of fucks with us. Like, I should love myself more. I should love myself more. And it's really stopping and being like, how would I want someone else to treat me right now? And then you get a specific, like what that offers you is actually more specific than I should just love myself. It's like, oh, I would want them to tell me that I'm doing a great job. Awesome. Like, then you just start, right? You just go like, you're doing a great job. Thanks for doing your best. And then it's like, okay, and now what else would I want how would I want them to love me like in this state? And again, it might, like, if you tend to be like on the wallowy side, like I can go into these kind of like wah states, like I might actually want someone to be like, come on, Kendra, we're going for a run, or you need to get outside. Or like, so it can be a little bit fierce sometimes, but it's not like, you stupid, lame, lazy, horrible person. If you were a better person, but it's not that voice. It's like, how would someone who actually loved me love me in this minute? And that gives us tangible actions. Tangible, like, oh, I would want them to squeeze me. I would want them, to massage my arms. I would want them to pull my hair. Literally do the thing. So if we take it out of the realm of the abstract, like self-love, and into the realm of like, actually, what is the action? How would I actually want someone to show me that they loved me right now? And then just do the thing. And even if it feels silly at first, like, we just do the thing. So that's like my hashtag, just do the thing. I'm going to leave you with that so I can get to my class on time. I love you. Ciao.